Citadel walls constantly vibrate. It is the power core pulse, humming deep in the obsidian metal, echoing against the roots of my teeth. That day an entirely different frequency existed. It radiated from the human. She was standing perfectly still, yet her physical form resonated with a contained, terrifying pressure, like a localized seismic event calculating the precise moment to fracture the crust. I will be honest with you. What I witnessed changed my understanding of biological restraint forever. Rio was small, 1.7 meters of unremarkable mammalian biology from a Class 12 biome. Her face held a permanent configuration that my translation software classified as mild amusement. My species, the Varanthi, possess literal transparency. You can watch my internal organs function. When we experience severe stress, our membranes involuntarily solidify into an opaque shield. My body hides me. I was serving as a provisional civilian adjudicator. I am afraid of the Jornathi officers. I want that on the official record. Everyone is. The Citadel was built for their 2.8-meter frames, resulting in corridors that span 4 meters across and doorways that loom like canyon entrances, which meant that Rhea and her Quarix lab partner, Yelsi, perpetually looked like misplaced children wandering a hostile fortress. Yelsi possessed hollow bones. She handled the xenobiology research. Rhea handled the physical labor. They communicated in an incomprehensible shorthand. At breakfast, I watched Rhea pour a viscous red fluid over her synthesized rations. The dispenser carried a biological hazard warning for capsaicin levels. "Does that not cause pain?" Yelsi asked. Rhea chewed slowly. "That's the point, little bird. I was drafting a routine supply requisition for hydroponic filters. Fleet Commander Orth was walking down the primary transit artery. Layered bone plates covered his massive frame. He considered herbivore species to be administrative waste. Yelsi was carrying a towering stack of data tablets. She could not see around the oversized bulkhead. They collided. Orth looked down at her. "These corridors are for combat personnel." He grabbed her arm to move her aside. To him it was a casual relocation of a minor obstacle. The sickening sound of Yelsi's forearm snapping echoed off the metallic walls. She collapsed. Orth released her. He stared at his massive hand. He had not intended to break her. My mate had sent a message asking about our dinner plans. I was going to suggest we visit the medical team rushed past my open door. I never answered the message. Rhea walked past my office a minute later. She moved at her normal, measured pace, but the mild amusement was gone. Her face was blank, completely blank, not an absence of emotion, a total, absolute quarantine of it. My membranes tightened, turning a cloudy white. When a species' expression zeroes out entirely, they are no longer processing information. They have already made a decision. I followed her, which was a terrible professional choice. Orth was at his console in the command office. 2 armored guards flanked him. A Spellian officer stood near the wall. A species whose physiology reacts to physical touch as a lethal assault. The ventilation system was humming loudly. I noticed a smudge on the glass of the door. Rhea walked into the room. Rhea did not raise her voice. "You broke Yelsi's arm." Orath barely looked up from his tactical display. "The Quarix should not have been in a combat corridor." "I'm asking you to apologize," Rhea said. "To her. In the medical bay. Publicly." Orath laughed. Jornathi laughter involves exhaling sharply through layered bone plates. It sounds like a hull breach tearing through titanium. He stood up. 2.8 meters of armored command structure looming over her. I recalled her planetary file. Her species evolved after 5 mass extinctions. His shadow consumed her entirely. And what is the other option, little creature? I began mentally drafting my incident report. Category: interspecies physical altercation. Aggressors pending. I realized my transparent hands were shaking. I was also incredibly annoyed that I was going to miss my evening meal cycle for this. Orth waved a massive hand. "Remove the human." A guard stepped forward. Rhea did not look at him. She lifted her wrath and began to speak with the cadence of an academic instructor. Drenathy bone plate armor covers 78% of the body. But major vulnerabilities include the wrist joint where a 4-centimeter gap exists between the radius and carpal plates, and the hip flexor which exposes 6 centimeters of muscle under the pelvis. The lateral neck is the only point where the jugular analog is accessible. All 3 points are within reach of a species my size. Your armor was designed to protect against species your size, not mine. Silence. She had just mapped his pressure point anatomy. Out loud. The standard protocol for insubordination is the civilian officer emitted a high-frequency crystalline chime. In their culture, physical touch is assault. To hear violence described so clinically caused his silicate structure to undergo severe harmonic distress. He took 3 deliberate steps backward, which meant he acknowledged a lethal entity. Orith reacted with standard Drenathy protective aggression. He shoved her. It was a dismissive, open palm strike. Rhea slid backward across the metal floor. Her boots screeched. She did not fall. She stayed standing. Her face remained entirely blank. The blankness was not indifference. It was the terrifying quarantine of an extreme adrenaline response, holding back a delayed retribution protocol. She reached up and rolled her neck. An audible pop echoed in the room. The guards took a step back. I noted this. Heavily armed soldiers retreating from a mammal. Rhea walked back to the desk. Slowly. Every step was deliberate, carrying the heavy, unseen weight of a planetary gravity, well that none of us could fully comprehend. She reached out and took Oroth's wrist. She used one hand. Her thumb found the 4-centimeter gap she had just described. I remember noticing that the primary illumination panel above us was flickering slightly, casting an annoying strobe effect over the diagnostic console. She squeezed. She did not use overwhelming force. She used absolute, calculated restraint to compress the nerve cluster. The fleet commander dropped to one knee. He did not kneel out of pain, but from the sudden physiological realization of his own vulnerability. She had waited. She had given him the polite option first. She leaned down to his eye level, her voice perfectly even. Apologize to Yelsey, or I'll teach your officers what I just taught you. One by one, slowly. Lieutenant Sorvan unholstered his sidearm, placed it on a crate, and walked out. It isn't needed, he whispered. The incident was a display of pack bonding and entirely proportional response. Section 14C was drafted shortly after. Orith apologized in the medical bay. I suppose that concludes the matter. Yelsey looked up. You didn't have to. Rhea adjusted her collar. Yeah, I did.